That was, of course, all the action. In fact, tomorrow at about 2 o'clock is when we will get to know the way forward as to how RBI looks at some of those macro indicators. On the other hand, all eyes will also be on the Indian rupee. But remember, today it kind of recovered after slipping to fresh lows of 73.81 to the dollar on the back of rising global oil prices and, of course, concerns on current account deficit and capital outflows. Moving on from all the macro stories on to another important corporate development. In fact, Chanda Kochhar, the disgraced MD and CEO of ICICI Bank, who's facing probe in multiple regulators, today quit her position. In a rather abrupt move, the bank's board has now appointed its chief operating officer, Sandeep Bakshi, as the MD and CEO for the next 5 years. Ashwin Mohan is joining in with more details. Ashwin, this was not totally unexpected, but what are the real reasons for this sudden move?
Good evening, Richie. Well, who would have thought that there would be curtains on the 34-year-old career of Chanda Kochhar at ICICI Bank in such an abrupt fashion. Earlier today, she made a request saying she wants to seek early retirement. She was scheduled to step down in March 2019. The board immediately accepted it. And there you have it. It's the end as far as her almost decade-long stint is concerned as the MD and CEO of one of India's largest private sector banks. There are several reasons which could have triggered this. The RBI as a regulator wasn't really happy with the entire interim arrangement. There was pressure on the board to find a full-time CEO. There was also investor criticism at the recent ICICI AGM regarding Chanda Kochhar. Then Chanda Kochhar's role in the various ICICI arms also came out on the lens. So all these factors would have contributed to this decision. But the board has made one thing very, very clear. The ongoing probe that has been initiated by the board, that will remain unaffected. And that, of course, is the probe which is headed by Justice Sri Krishna into allegations of quid pro quo as far as the ICICI Videocon loan controversy is concerned. Even any sort of retirement benefits will be linked to the outcome of this probe. So that's been made crystal clear. But there is a new man in the corner office, Mr. Bakshi, and he, of course, will take over now as the new MD and CEO of ICICI Bank for a period of 5 years. But, for somebody who has been, almost synonymous with the bank, it definitely is a fall from grace. And remember, she started off as a management trainee way back in 1984. But the end, of course, or the exit, of course, has definitely been rather controversial, Ruchi.
Absolutely, Ashwin. Many thanks for getting in all those details. In fact, I will request my producer to get back those visuals. The IL&FS board meeting, the new board meeting has just ended, and the newly appointed board is going to address the media very soon. Uday Kotak there at the helm of affairs now will start speaking and talking about the revival plan going forward. Let's see if we can get the audio on that press conference.
The orders of the NCLT Mumbai dated October 1 and October 3, where the entire board of the company was reconstituted, and now we are a total of 7 members, which include, besides me, Mr. Vineet Nair, Mr. Bajpai, Mr. Chaturvedi, Dr. Malini Shankar, Mr. Nanda Kishore, and Mr. Rajan, who are now the entire board. That is point number 1. I also would like to say that each of us as directors are humbled by the responsibility placed by the government on us, and we truly consider this as a national duty. The board was kind enough to elect me as the non-executive chairman, and I'm also happy to inform that the board has appointed Mr. Vineet Nair as the vice chairman and managing director of the company, subject to the approval of the NCLT. The board has further reconstituted the 4 statutory committees required under the Companies Act, namely the Audit Committee, the Nomination and the Remuneration Committee, the Stakeholder Relationship Committee, and the Corporate Social Responsibility Committee, and has specifically appointed members on each of these committees. with a view to preserve value, the board will take necessary steps with respect to the company and its subsidiaries, joint ventures and associates. The board was briefed in detail by the legal advisors on the current issues. The management team of the company gave a presentation on the corporate and the organization structure. There are 348 entities as a part of the group. 348 entities as a part of the group, significantly larger than what we had originally been aware of. And this underscores the task at hand. The board undertook an initial assessment of the ground reality and the way forward. The board will meet frequently to implement the directions of the NCLT and to prepare a roadmap. We are committed to an objective process to make a fair assessment of facts, acting in the interest of different stakeholders with a view to rebuild trust. The core aim of ours is to ensure fair value and resolution of the enterprise, having regard to all its complexities. So friends, with these initial words, I must say that our total meeting lasted in excess of 5 hours, and we are going to be meeting very, very frequently, both at board level, at the committee level, and we've taken a number of views and also what further actions we need to take, and had a very comprehensive, detailed discussion. And all of us as a team are here together to effectively say that this is one team working together in the interests of what is right for the nation. Thank you very much. I think let me divide it into two parts. Our first objective is to work towards a comprehensive roadmap on the way forward. And the good news for us as a board is that we are all coming with an open mind. And therefore at this stage, we are not taking a view on A or B or C, but we have listed down various options available to us as the next steps. And depending on the various assessment of facts that we are doing, we will be able to take a view on exactly which of the roads to take. And there are 2 or 3 or 4 options clearly available with us, and you will see them unfold over the next few days and weeks.
But I have one question. Of course, we have the board members, the strength here in front of us. Would you also look to add more members to the board, because the government has a window of 10 board members? Would you look to add them going forward? In the second part, would you also look at changing the management of the listed subsidiaries as well?
Let me answer in 2 parts. One I will answer, and the second I will ask Mr. Nair. On the first part, with respect to additional board members, as you know, we are a board constituted at the instance of the Government of India and approved by the NCLT, and therefore we are a legally constituted board, as different from a normal shareholder-led board, which most of us have in normal course been familiar with. And therefore we will go by what is the right thing to do from the point of view of the government and the NCLT process. And as far as the management is concerned, I must request my colleague, Mr. Vinit Nair, who some of you may be aware, has had a phenomenal reputation. I don't know how many of you know that Mr. Nair started Gas Authority of India. And from scratch, the HTJ pipeline was driven by him in a record time, and thereafter from oil and gas to technology. He has a wide experience, which now will obviously also include a lot more of the infrastructure. So Vineet, you want to talk about how you see the whole area of management as we go forward.
Look, we are here for one. We will hardly be here for 24 hours. Like in every company, every group of association, there's an outstanding people. We have no predetermined view on any individual or any group of people. We will see as we go along. But I have always believed in working with the people whom we hired. Because we do believe that all of them, most of them, are well-intentioned, hard-working, and can and will deliver given the conditions we create. Our objective is going to be to create an enabling environment which would enable every staff member to do his or her best. However, I will not underestimate the challenges that we face.
Mr. Kochhar, could you elaborate the comprehensive plan you spoke about? You said that you want to put in place a comprehensive roadmap that could be put into motion. Could you highlight some areas that you will work towards? Could you complete?
I think you will.
Why don't you complete?
No,
I'm sorry, I just thought that you had completed what you wished.
so, as I said, it's early time, and we will do our best to create a stable environment for everyone to function. People I met, I'm very happy with, and we will take it as it comes. But one thing I promise you, that we will do our very best to bring this company to an even keel. It's going to be challenging, it is difficult, but I don't believe it's impossible.
Saloni.
Can we just sort of have one by one?
Saloni.
Just want you to something that is it correct to understand that there has been no fee taken on the subsidiary? What will the board do on that?
We have taken a lot of views. Please understand, we are just 12 hours. So, and 345 or 350 or 360 is not easy to comprehend, even by a chairman who is as competent, as well known, and as legendary as Mr. Kochhar. It will take time. Clearly, in my view, towards April, it will take complete rationalization. But that one step at a time, let's first do the diagnostics and then we will come up with a possible solution.
Does algorithm market continue to work inside the just 2 or 3 days ago?
We are looking at each and every one of the appointments, and we will be looking at each of these over the next few days. So we will be able to tell you exactly what the situation is with reference to any specific advisor, expert or consultant. Mayur.
Legal challenges as of now.
Yeah, Mayur. As I said, that everything is looked at de novo. Everything is looked at with a fresh pair of eyes, and all the board members have at some level an advantage of looking at it completely with an open mind. There is no history which we carry with us, and therefore every one of these calls we have laid down a few clear options in terms of the ways forward, and we are now working on systematically fleshing out each of these, which we will do over the next few days and weeks. I think legal challenges, so in a situation like this, there will be lots. Okay, when you are having a situation where the overall size of the debt is significant and the complexity of the structure is quite a lot, that is a part of what the challenge is, and which is why I started by saying that we are humbled by the responsibility which has been put on the board, and we therefore are making sure that all the decisions we take are consistent with the law and also have commercial justification. Yes. Let me just get. I'll get one. Yes.
Now that we some kind of monitoring on payments so that you are able to stem the deposits that on the IL&FS side. And my second question is that on the financials of IL&FS, are we only looking at the financial of IL&FS whether they are indeed the way they have been represented, or you will look for a forensic audit of it?
Okay, I will answer in two parts. First, as I mentioned, we are looking at various options. Therefore, it would be improper for me to say option A or option B or option C to meet the challenges. So on that, my answer to your first question is we are looking at various options. As and when we take steps, we will obviously be making you aware of those options. As far as the second part is concerned with reference to audits and audit committees and all, I am very happy to say that Mr. Chanda Kochhar has been appointed as the chairman of the audit committee, and he comes with a very deep and vast experience in the area of accounts and audit. And maybe Mr. Chanda Kochhar, if you want to add something.
Audit committee would like to evaluate the accounting systems of the company. We would look at the internal audit. We would also interact with the statutory audit, and then we would see whether some strengthening here and there in the system's internal processes is required. So, but it's only the initial stage. All the options have to be weighed, and thereafter a call will be taken. Thank you.
Now, I mean, too much on this side, and I have to give some for this side. Yes.
If I could ask you, as you're rightly pointing out, there are complex issues, many challenges. But coming back to the preferential issue, I'm asking this again, sir, because is there any communication which has come from the existing shareholders like Japan's partners or LIC? Is there any communication that has gone from you? Because that would be perhaps the easiest and the shortest route for raising some immediate liquidity. So if you could just throw some light on that. And secondly, sir, government said that they want a Satyam kind of action plan, and that is where how they nominated this board. Mr. Nair, if you could throw this light on this question, where do you see the primary challenges, or how different the situation is what we witnessed 10 years back when Satyam came to that? Thanks.
Okay, on the first one, with reference to the process, this is a process which is under an NCLT process, which is a process independent of at this stage, in terms of having more detailed discussions with the shareholders. I'm obviously clear that shareholders are an important constituency, and we will be talking to the shareholders at an appropriate time. As I mentioned, we also have formed a stakeholder relationship committee, and we've got former chairman SEBI, Mr. Bajpai, as the chair of the stakeholder relationship committee. So that is something which we will be certainly doing appropriately, because that's a part of an appropriate communication job. The current focus today was much more operating under the NCLT process, and at the same time taking more immediate areas and steps which needed urgent attention of a board with an open mind. As far as, the people like to brand, copy, Satyam, non-Satyam, I'm sure Vineet can speak onto it, but I must say that there are two parts to it. Number one, this is a very complex company, and one has to keep that in mind. And it is financial markets intermediary, but also in the real world space. And therefore, there are significant financial market challenges which make it a little different from directly comparing with the Satyam situation. And of course, on sheer scale of the size of the assets, it's at a different scale. Vineet has spent one full day yesterday, and maybe he can throw more light on this situation.
No, the chairman is absolutely right. The comparison is chalk and cheese. The sense is, in case of Satyam, it was a simple case of felony. Person stole the money, forged the accounts, was finally caught. Bad as it was, I do believe it was relatively simple. Here, I think the complexity is greater. There is at least no evidence of any form of felony here. But on the other hand, putting it back on its feet will require effort at multiple levels. And therefore, you may not have such a clear-cut solution early. My one-day study and my conversation with my colleagues and with the chairman indicates that complexity is at multiple levels. But I'm not disheartened. I think we people have, over a period of time, learn how to deal with complexities, and I'm sure we will be able to, or I at least hope that we will be able to find a resolution to the current problems. And in due course of time, we will get back to the state.
Having said that, that's what I said, that the board is committed to an objective process to make a fair assessment of facts. So we are in the process of making a fair assessment of the facts. And once we come to a fair assessment of facts, we have heard the management's views, which we have absorbed. We have to make an assessment of the facts. We have to ensure that when we make our assessment, it is objective and after a fair process. And as soon as we feel confident about having achieved that, we will come back to you. And I think there's 1 minute. I think you have Piche, yeah.
Immediately, what is the kind of cash that the company requires to survive and stay afloat? At least that could have been a certainty. If you can please share that number, and what could be the mode in which you can stay afloat, at least in the very near term, if you can throw more light on that. While many other options are.
If the company had enough cash to pay its debts, we would not have been sitting here in front of you. Obviously, we have a challenge. But after today's meeting, and I wanted to actually add that we have a sense of where broadly what directions and options we need to go forward in. And we obviously understand that valuations may be different, but we have a sense of the various alternatives which we can explore. But keep in mind that, for us to be able to assess, obviously we look at the larger companies first, but to be able to have a view on a whole maze of 348 entities. And keep in mind that this is something which is more than double of what was the earlier assessment of the number of entities. This is a very significant aspect of this. Therefore, to be in all fairness, it will take us longer time, and we are evaluating various options to ensure that the fair value of the assets and the enterprise is preserved to the maximum extent we can do, and obviously find a fair resolution mechanism. And also the issues about people, and I'm also happy to say that there are significant people issues, and I think Vineet is absolutely right in making the broader set of employees of IL&FS feel that we are here to find appropriate solutions, and that is the intent with which we are going. And we have also, as I mentioned, formed the committee. So we have formed the nomination and the remuneration committee, which is an extremely important committee in this context at a time like this. And I'm very happy to share that Mr. Chaturvedi will be chairing that committee, and maybe you want to say something on
we have not been able to go into all these details. Maybe when we meet next time, having some information with that, we would be able to say something.
Of the last few years, their salaries are running withdrawals, excess of 8-9 crores, and they're just deputy managing directors and CEOs and people below that. So, I mean, we would welcome such information with us. Kindly.
Could you elaborate on the people issues? What exactly were you referring to when you said these people issues?
No, you want, finally, in most of the businesses are going concerns, and you want people to feel that, you want to preserve value of the enterprise. So you got to get the balance between appropriate action where required, at the same time ensuring that this is in significant parts a going concern enterprise. Now this side, yeah. Now we have had a lot on this side. Who has not answered? This lady has not spoken. Okay.
It is higher than you had anticipated earlier. Will consolidation be the next step, or will you be looking at sale of these subsidiaries?
As I said, various options are now. Between all of you, you already put out so much options. Somebody said rights issue, somebody said sale, somebody said rationalization, somebody said merger, somebody said consolidation. So I am saying that we are actually getting inputs as a board of the various options. Obviously, we are considering most of them. Yeah, 1 minute. Now I've yes. Joel.
What are the options, if you can elaborate?
See, without getting into specifics of what the options the board has evaluated, I mean, just think about, all of you are really smart people, okay? Think about all the options you have discussed here. Somebody said consolidation, somebody said rationalization, somebody said sale in part, somebody said rights issue, somebody said get different kinds of investors, what the shareholders will do. Somebody mentioned about funding, the cash needs. So all of you, between you have already given us ideas, so we really appreciate that. Okay.
So what about the immediate repayments which are due?
How much are these?
I said various options have been evaluated in detail.
No, the immediate repayments which the company has in front of the bank property that we are sitting in has been also put on the block.
What is your view? What is your view? What should we do? No, but I'm taking. That is one of the options.
As a banker, the banks have nearly 50,000 crores of exposure to IL&FS through. Now, this process will take a couple of months. In the process, banks will have to take a hit into there. What is the message you have with respect to how much of haircut they should be prepared for?
Okay, my first point is we as a board are responsible not for decisions taken earlier by whichever party. Okay, our job is from here, as I've mentioned very specifically, to acting in interests of different stakeholders. And the interests of different stakeholders may be different. And we have to ensure that we do it fairly and we rebuild trust. I think in times like these, what is most important is clarity which we can bring, and what really affects markets more than anything else is uncertainty. But at the same time, you don't want to preempt that clarity without really coming to a clear view. Therefore, at this point of time, what I would like to give as a message to all stakeholders, whatever category they may be, that we will do what is in the right interests of the different categories of the stakeholders. We'll try and bring clarity. And the core message is we are here to rebuild trust and do it in a open, fair, objective manner. That is something which, on behalf of our entire board, I would like to assure various stakeholders that the purpose is very simply do what's right in the interest of the institution, in the interest of the different stakeholders, and a broader commitment to the financial markets of India. I think that is what I said. That is what I've said. The board will meet frequently to implement the directions of NCLT and to prepare a roadmap. The current NCLT order requires us to give a roadmap by 31st of October. That is in the public domain.
Will the debt obligations be higher because the number of entities we've spoken about is almost double? Will the debt obligations be actually higher than what is first estimated, which is around 91,000 crore as per the Finance Ministry order?
If you read the debt obligations, to the best of my knowledge, those obligations were as of 31st of March. Obviously, this is a moving target, and we are looking at all the obligations and financing which has been raised by the company, which includes different kinds of debt, secured, unsecured, bonds, loans, commercial paper, the entire range of debt. There are also other instruments like preference capital, which sits between debt and equity. So there are stakeholders who have invested as preference capital into this company, and there is a reasonable amount of that, and there are no off-balance sheet items. So how much of that off-balance sheet non-fund based items translate, which are currently, or which may be contingent liabilities, they can become real liabilities. Therefore, our view is correct assessment of facts and finding viable, sustainable solutions. And I want to again reassure all of you that it is complex, but our board will do its best to find appropriate, fair solutions, whatever they may be. At this point of time, let me ask you one thing. If your firm had 100,000 crores of debt and was defaulting, would you be able to say tomorrow morning you're going to start repaying everything? So then, correct. So then give us a chance, no? Give us a chance, give us time. We are working on it, and you have our commitment that we will do what is right and transparent. Yes, this lady here. Then
there have been a couple of reports regarding the SSI investigation. Is there any kind of strategy you'd like to bring into that, keeping in mind that there have been reports of disclosing in companies or certain
there are different authorities who work on different aspects of a situation, and it is for the SFIO, which is an independent authority, evaluate the facts of the case and take a view on the basis of that. And yes, of course, it is out there in the media that SFIO has been looking at issues at IL&FS. So that is media already has that, and our understanding is that SFIO would rightly be looking at the situation, considering the size of this company and the commitments it has to the broader financial markets.
Sir, बाजार के अंदर और निवेशकों के मन में जिस तरह से डर, भय और चिंता का माहौल है, तो अभी तक जो आपने पूरी स्थिति का जायजा लिया है, तो उसके मुताबिक क्या जो सोचा गया था उससे स्थिति बेहतर या खराब है? क्योंकि आपने खुद ने कहा कि नंबर ऑफ सब्सिडरी जो थी वो रिपोर्टेड थी उससे काफी ज्यादा है, तो कहीं ना कहीं जो आंकड़े पेश किए गए उसमें भी लगता है कि मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन थी और ये पूरा जो मकर जाल है काफी बड़ा हो सकता है.
Let me assure you one thing, okay? We are fully geared to get a full assessment of the situation. And we are very clear that our job is to preserve and restore value, okay? That is something which we as a board are very, very clear about our responsibility of what we need to do. But you have to keep in mind that in view of the complexity, these things take time. And the board is committed. Board is going to meet very frequently. And I don't want to give you the next board meeting date because we may decide to meet even earlier. So we have to keep the flexibility because we understand we are dealing with live markets, we are dealing with volatile markets, we are dealing with a systemically important financial sector entity of scale and size. And I would like to convey to all stakeholders and
all right, that was the new board at IL&FS, and they met today for the first time. Chanda Kochhar thereafter briefing the media and categorically stated how this is a very different case than the Satyam case. He said that they are not coming with any predetermined views. They took stock of the situation today. They've appointed Vineet Nair as the Vice Chairman and MD, and they've come out with 4 committees to look into issues. There's going to be an audit committee, remuneration committee, and also a stakeholder relation committee. Of course, let me take it across to Ashwin Parekh, who's joining us on the phone line. Mr. Parekh, good evening. This is Ruchi Bhatia here from the Delhi newsroom. Let me first ask you, the new board has their task cut out, but today they refrained from making any forward-looking statements. They said that we will be looking at all these things with a fresh pair of eyes, but at this point of time, all options are on the table. I mean, going forward from here, I understand it's too soon for the board to come out and chalk out a strategy, but given the fact that they have the 31st October deadline in front of them when they have to reach out to the NCLT, in terms of time frame, what are the options, short-term options that they could be looking at, and are you satisfied with the stock-taking exercise that has happened today?
Yes, I mean, there is a good reason, for one to really say that that one is happy with this. I mean, the main reason is the speed with which the new board is now started working. I mean, major decisions, committees have been formed, and more importantly, instead of bothering too much about looking at where things went wrong, I think the board seems to, the message that you're getting is that they're taking a forward-looking kind of let's say, approach, under which, let's say, they will look at the measures quickly and see how exactly the confidence can be restored. So, I mean, all said and done, within the short time within which this new board has really been constituted, I must say that the steps taken are fairly good. Instead of working on perceptions, I suppose if they start working on more facts, then that would really help everybody, I would say.
Absolutely. Mr. Parekh, let me also ask you another important question. Chanda Kochhar, while briefing the media, categorically stated that one of the big stumbling block is going to be the complex structure of IL&FS. It has about 348 entities as a part of the group. How easy or difficult is it going to be to deal with such a large conglomerate that has such a huge debt? What kind of permutations and combinations will they have to work on, and how easy or difficult is it going to be working all these permutations and combination under the current NCLT framework?
Well, I mean, if you look at these, let's say, different structures, I mean, these structures have been created mainly to fund, various infrastructure projects where the state governments in many cases is involved. I mean, many states are involved. And, of course, there are a few, let's say, ones which are at the union level as well. Now, I mean, the first, of course, is a simple ABC kind of an evaluation out of these 348 structures. Those which have larger sector concentration and large amounts, let's say, tied to those, I'm sure will be the ones which will be focused, in the first round. Structures for an infrastructure lending organization is a part of, the entire, let's say, working of it, because we have to create different structures for different assets which are on the books of the infrastructure funding company. So to that extent, I mean, one must say that there is nothing unique or different. I mean, one must say. Yes.
Mr. Parekh, stay on with me. Also joining me on the phone line is Sriram Subramaniam, founder and managing director at InGovern Research Services. Mr. Subramaniam, many thanks for joining in. Good evening. This is Ruchi Bhatia from the Delhi newsroom. Are you satisfied with the stock-taking exercise that the board has taken today? They met for about 5 hours, and this coming in only after Monday when the government appointed a new board. They said that they will be having a comprehensive roadmap in the days to come. They're looking at all the options with an open mind. But given how complex this entire entity is, how difficult is it going to be to rework and look at all the options of a rights issue, the non-core asset sale? How easy or difficult is it going to be?
Yes, obviously today's exercise is just a small beginning, I would think, because at the end of the day, the challenge is multiple. The biggest challenge is to infuse some short-term liquidity and sort of assure the lenders and creditors that they will not default on the immediate next payment. I mean, how does the board do that is the biggest challenge. Of course, in the medium to long term, one can think of non-core asset sale, etc., etc. But in the immediate short term, I would think the challenge is to not do the next default.
Absolutely, very rightly put. The immediate challenge will be to ensure that the company does not default once again. Gentlemen, stay on with me. Also joining us now on the phone line is Amit Tandon. Amit Tandon, good evening. You know, the point that Mr. Subramaniam was making, that the immediate task at hand is to ensure that IL&FS does not default going forward. They already have a debt of close to 91,000 crore rupees as of March. And now that liability is only going to rise going forward. In your view, what is it that the board needs to do? They had a preliminary meeting today. They took stock of a situation. They have 4 committees that will now be looking at the issues. But in terms of the immediate debt repayment that has to be done, in your view, what are the options on the table that the new board has?
Look, I think today's meeting was a placeholder. It really doesn't. Not expecting anything dramatic today. Nothing dramatic has come. What the board needs to do is appoint a CEO and the management team. That's the first thing they need to do. As far as default is concerned, the issue is that they need to kind of have a look at the cash flows, understand what is happening. I don't think at this moment it's fair to ask the shareholders to come in without a credible plan. Once that is in place, the company can then decide whether it wants to do a rights issue or any other fundraise and then proceed with it. It also goes hand in hand with sale of assets, some of which can happen reasonably quickly.
Absolutely. Mr. Tandon, stay on with me. Let me go back to Sriram Subramaniam. Sriram Subramaniam, talk to us about the legal tangles. Given the fact that this, we're looking at about 348 subsidiaries of IL&FS. It is a complex structure. In terms of legal tangles, how will the new board ensure that it is consistent with the law and also it makes commercial sense?
No, I think that, it will not be so much of a legal tangle unless somebody, all the NCLT cases right now are sort of withdrawn, or there is some assurance given to sort of lenders who have taken some of these companies to the NCLT. Beyond that, the immediate legal tangle, I don't foresee much. But of course, the board can. One is stop the dividend payment, which was declared in the on Saturday's shareholder meeting itself, and then subsequently take some actions.
Absolutely. Let me take that point across to Mr. Parekh. Mr. Parekh, talk to us about the legal tangles, because that is going to be a huge hurdle going forward for the new board to be able to work under the NCLT framework. They just had, a one basic meeting to understand what all are the kind of issues that they have to deal with. And I'm sure there are plenty. No wonder then they've come out with 4 committees, an audit committee, stakeholder committee, a committee that is going to look at remuneration. So all these are the issues that all these committees will have to work with. At the same time, try to ensure that there's no panic that gets spread in the market. But the legal tangles seem to be also a big task that is at hand.
Well, actually, the answer perhaps lies in the plans they have. If they really come out with plans, they communicate them, then to that extent it will give a certain order of comfort to all the three sets of people who are associated with the tangle at this point in time: the shareholders, the lenders to the extent that they are holding either the debt instruments and of course some creditors if they are. So I would say everything will really depend upon the kind of plan and scheme that, let's say, the new board comes out. After the board comes out with a scheme which looks, more reassuring. See, in situations like this, the way the whole thing works is, the whole problem is on account of duration mismatch. Now, if some more time is given by the lenders and it's given by the shareholders, then and the value restoration happens, the value starts coming back to the assets, then I suppose, the legal tangle reduces. Because then there is some kind of a reassurance that some repayment will start happening now, and over a certain period of time, further repayment will happen. In which case, let's say the lenders may not really drag the institution to the courts or take them into lots of legal complications. So I think everything depends on the first level of due diligence that the new board carries out and the plan they evolve. And then of course, we've seen already that there's from the government side, the Prime Minister has already given the ministries some kind of an indication that all the projects which are pending, there is to be a complete thorough evaluation. So I suppose if different stakeholders, including the policymakers, the government, and the regulators start supporting this initiative, I would certainly say the legal tangles will reduce then.
Absolutely, but let me take it across to Amit Tandon. Amit Tandon, in your view, how important will it be to reassure investors? As Mr. Parekh is pointing out, the new board has the blessings of not just the regulators but also the government, the PMO. But at a time like this, when investors are so panicky, we had seen how the IL&FS contagion was spreading across the markets. We had a 1,500 points wild swing in the markets one day just because of that scare of IL&FS when DSP went ahead and sold their commercial paper of Diwan Housing Finance Limited. At a time like this, how important is it to assure investors? What is it that the new board has to tell investors in terms of the way forward at IL&FS?
Look, clearly, you can't have investors panicking. And in this case, it is the debt market players rather than the equity market players, because at the end of the day, most of the exposure is with debt. And in that sense, this whole thing is fundamentally different from Satyam. Satyam, at the end of the day, was much more an equity market play where the equity markets were a little bit spooked rather than the bond markets. In this case, it's the debt markets, and it has ramifications for the lenders, which is the banks. It has ramifications for the asset management companies. It has ramifications for a whole lot of other players, and therefore it's very important that they have full comfort in terms of what is happening. So it's in that context, the fact that the government has gone ahead and superseded the board and appointed people in whom they have full confidence. The statements which are coming out, one of which was just mentioned by Mr. Parekh, I haven't heard it firsthand, but what he said was that the Prime Minister himself has asked for all these issues to be looked at, all the projects to be looked at and see what can be done to complete it. Are some of the statements at the very least which will give the market some assurance that the problem is a serious problem and it is getting the attention of the various arms of the government at the appropriate level.
Absolutely. Amit Tandon, Sriram Subramaniam as well as Ashwin Parekh, stay on with me. Joining me also now on the show is Neha Bothra. She was at that press conference. Neha, the new board has steered clear of giving any revival plan. It was a stock-taking exercise, but they have put in place certain new committees. What is going to be the larger approach? Is it going to be a step-by-step approach that the new board is going to be looking at, or will they look at all the issues? Because in this particular case, the issues are a lot. So what is going to be the approach that the new board is going to take?
So the board was very categorical in saying that they will consider all options on the table so that they are fair and objective in any outcomes that they deliberate upon and which is put into action. As far as the comprehensive roadmap is concerned, we did ask for details on what really the comprehensive roadmap is that the board has been talking about. In fact, if you were listening to the press conference, the board reiterated that there is a comprehensive roadmap in place that will be implemented. They steered clear of any details as to what really the roadmap is, what are some of the measures that they are contemplating at this point. There was no reference to any of it. In fact, at one point, the board member did say that the room full of journalists had given sufficient ideas, and this ranged from rights issue, asset monetization, to name a few, and they hinted that these would be on the table as far as implementation of strategy is concerned, but they deterred from giving a clear indication of what they are contemplating at this point. Not just that, the biggest question at this point is what are the short-term liabilities in terms of the payouts that the group has, considering that there are 348 subsidiaries. This was shared by the board. They did not share a number, but one would be reasonably intelligent to guess that now that 348 subsidiaries are being spoken about, the number floating around would be much higher. In fact, we also understand from the interaction we had with the board members that while this entire matter is being looked into, they are trying to assess what really the scope of the damage is. They do seem to have an idea that 348 subsidiaries would mean that the scope of liabilities is much higher than was perhaps earlier anticipated. In fact, the board also highlighted key areas. One was, of course, asset monetization, which they said is something that will be looked into, and the entire matter would be seen from a perspective of ensuring that it is objective and fair to all stakeholders. In fact, these are the three words that the board reiterated in the 45-minute conversation and discussion that they had with the journalists present in the room.
All right, Neha, many thanks for getting in all those details. Let me also take it across to Sailesh Haribhakti, who's joining us on the phone line. Mr. Haribhakti, the new board has steered clear of giving any roadmap. They're saying that we are looking at all the options on the table, including asset monetization, including a rights issue. They're looking at consolidation. So at a time like this, you know, when now by October 31st, they have to submit a new report, how are you looking at all these options in terms of their feasibility, and how the board also mentioned that in case of Satyam, the solution was very easy, and in IL&FS, it's a far more complex organization to deal with?
Well, I think the board can only set up the strategic thrust that IL&FS will follow, and that's what they seem to have done. And I think it is only fair to permit the board to maintain its confidentiality, because the matters that they're dealing with have got such a large public impact.
All right, I think we have lost the audio of Mr. Haribhakti. Perils of live television, what to do about it? But let me take that point across to Mr. Sriram Subramaniam. Mr. Subramaniam, talk to us about how difficult is going to be dealing with the current liabilities, because almost about 91,000 crores we were looking at till March of this year, and given the number of subsidiaries, the kind of liabilities that will arise in future, how feasible are the options that the board is looking at? And also talk to us about the timeline, whether how difficult, easy is it going to be in terms of the timeline? They have to submit a report by October 31st, but to be able to put that plan into action, how easy or difficult is it going to be?
Obviously, it's not an easy exercise. It's by far the most difficult exercise, because even unraveling as to who are the various stakeholders and partners in each of these 390 subsidiaries is going to be a challenge. And then figuring out where the liabilities lie and which of them are short-term and long-term. I'm sure they have all the data, the action plan, of course, could be determined in the next before October 31st. But of course, the execution of it may take 6 months to a year. So the obviously before October 31st, they have to put together a credible plan which other stakeholders, largely the debt holders, believe and think that it is a workable plan. And that is what is going to sort of satisfy the market. And this is by far one of the challenges I think the board has to take up. And be it a rights issue, whether one doesn't know, they have to undertake a consultation with all shareholders and see whether they are in a view to or what their concerns are to infuse additional equity, and which of those assets that the company has is saleable. And obviously, if that's a fair sale, the value is going to be completely off the ballpark. So all these considerations, I'm sure they are taking into account. And it's, putting together a plan before October 31st is still achievable. Executing the plan may take a lot of time, over 6 months to a year, I would think.
Absolutely, execution is going to be far more tougher. But on that note, let me thank all my guests. Gentlemen, thanks for taking out your time. Sriram Subramaniam, Amit Tandon, Sailesh Haribhakti, as well as Ashwin Parekh. Many thanks for taking your time out, helping us understand the kind of roadmap that the new IL&FS board could be working with. All right, with that, we take a short break here. We will come back with more news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned.